Hi, Gerhard Bloom here, once again, looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. In case you haven't heard, in several American cities, babies are now being admitted into hospital because of the desperate shortage of baby food formula. Now, a couple of very stupid people have commented that, well, why can't women just simply breastfeed? Uh, it's a sad reality that for non-trivial reasons, women have to resort in some circumstances to use baby formula. There's simply no other option. Oh, what happened before baby formula was invented? Well, babies died. That's right. Infant mortality declined because of infant baby formula. That's a reality. So Biden is reducing the United States to the equivalent of a third world country at the very moment he feeds babies of the third world immigrants the food that is desperately needed for American citizens. Amidst this crisis, he has sent pallets of this desperately needed food to the border. This is food the American babies desperately need. Now, Joe Biden has absolutely no duty to the world's poor. He has a duty to American citizens. The governments of the third world countries, they have a responsibility to care for their citizens. It is a responsibility they've long abdicated, relying on handouts from international charities and the pressure release valve that is immigration. These governments don't reform because they aren't forced to. Government elites live like petty princes, and their citizens continue to live in abject poverty. And no, the poverty in the third world is not the product of neocolonialism or first world exploitation. It is kleptocratic governments, chronic mismanagement. Proof of that is you look at countries like South Korea, India, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, and a growing number of African countries. They have all, to varying degrees, embraced the principles of free market capitalism and, in consequence, reduced poverty, increased life expectancy, and drastically improved quality of life. So why is Joe Biden doing this? Because he cares for the third world children? No, he doesn't care about third world children. Because many people who are struggling to come up to the American southern border suffer grave hardship, exploitation, rape, murder, and are forced to engage in drug trafficking. They're forced into act as drug mules. So why is Biden doing this? Biden and the Democrats desperately need the desperately poor. They will form the electoral base the party needs to stay in power. And that's their plan. And they've made no secret of this plan. They've made no secret of demographic realities, and they see their voting base as coming from the third world. If you can't count on the American public as it's currently constituted, you can flood the country with people dependent on welfare and government support. These people, at least initially, will vote Democrat. This is deeply flawed on a number of levels. Increasing numbers of blacks and Hispanics are recognizing the consequences that this will have for them. It will drive their wages down as cheap labor undercuts their market value. They are increasingly likely to vote Republican. And in case you hadn't heard, American blacks had the lowest unemployment rates in American history under Donald Trump. And of course, leftists don't tell you that. Unless this open border policy stops, record quantities of deadly fentanyl will continue to flood into the country and continue to kill Americans in catastrophic numbers. Over 100,000 people died to this poison over the last year, and rates are rising. And this is not to mention the human trafficking, including sexual slavery, and the enrichment of Mexican drug cartels making billions of dollars in human smuggling. It also ignores the threat, and a very real threat, of terrorists and violent criminals freely crossing into the border. Unrestrained immigration will overwhelm the welfare system and social service networks, and ultimately it will bankrupt the economy. Undoubtedly, this will also fuel bitterness and resentment against immigrants. If history is a guide, and it most certainly is a guide, this will manifest itself in very, very ugly ways. I hope you'll check out my book for lengthier discussions on this and other topics. It's important, not because I wrote it because the issues are important. Please drop a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you very much for your support. Bye-bye for now.